Ready? Okay. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the September 26th meeting of this special CRA Advisory Committee meeting. Can we please begin with a pledge of allegiance? The flag is to my right. Kenny, you want to lead us in? It's right. You can't see it, but to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, can we have a roll call, please? You want to do the roll call?
Okay. Michael McDermott,
Present?
Edwidge Clark,
Present.
Brenda Alfaro, Clifford Williams, Naomi Blimmer, Kenneth Each, Maricel Medina, and I know I'm killing these names, Blanca Cabo,
Present.
Ashika Bronson Marcellus, Ashaki, right next to me, Pierre Charles.
Present.
I think you have a quorum, Committee Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have the consent agenda, which is, is the approval of the minutes. Is that correct, Mr. Executive Director?
So moved.
Yeah. So can we have a motion to approve the minutes of the July meeting?
So moved. Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Can I have a motion to approve tonight's meeting?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Okay, agenda item 1 is a resolution to approve fiscal year 22-23 proposed budget. I turn it over to our executive director.
Thank you, and I want to thank you. I haven't seen or been before this committee since I last was pleading for your support, and I want to thank you for your support. Mr. Chairperson, I want to do a couple of things tonight. I first want to go over the budget, and also I have some additional material in the packet that I want to at least share with the committee, and the material is some background, and I'll go through it very briefly when the time comes to lay a foundation for a upcoming to be determined retreat that we're planning for this committee. And so I just want to go over some pertinent documents, give you some homework, give you some things to read in the meantime. So let me start with the main agenda item, which is the item 1, okay? Pursuant to an interlocal cooperation agreement between the North Miami CRA and its taxing authorities, that's the city of North Miami as well as Miami-Dade County, the CRA is required annually to adopt a budget for any upcoming fiscal year. And as you may know, tomorrow night I will be presenting the North Miami CRA proposed fiscal year 22-23 budget to the North Miami CRA board for their approval. But I first want to give this committee an opportunity to review the budget prior to my actual board meeting tomorrow at 5:30. And so what I want to be able to point to you now is if we could go to, I have in your booklets the complete entire budget, but not to bog you down, I'm going to go to the budget narrative, which is probably a summary of the budget, and I want to go, and I think you may have this in your packet. Do you have this budget narrative?
Yes.
Okay, and so I want, on the first page, of course, is the Commissioners Advisory Committee, and on the next page is our history. I'm gonna go past the history, and I'm gonna go right to page 4. And if you look at page 4, what page 4, the graph in page 4 is a summary of the tax increment revenues comparing fiscal year 21-22 to the upcoming year, fiscal year 22-23. And I just want to make sure we're all on the same page, so I'm going to hold it up. We don't have that in the PowerPoint? We don't? Okay, so I want to make sure we're all on the same page, okay? And so if you look at the total revenues, the first line is the TIF revenues from the city. And if you see that in fiscal year 21-22, the city contribution to the North Miami CRA was $7,939,428. In the upcoming fiscal year, it's anticipated it will be $9,870,193, an increase of close to $1.9 million. And you can see the TIF contribution from the county, which went from $4.9 million to $6.1 million, an increase about $1.1 million. And then you can see our carryovers increased to $6,461,000 and $6,461,453. You see our interest stayed the same. The miscellaneous revenue went from $4,500 to $126,099. That figure represents a half of an overpayment to the city of North Miami, where pursuant to an interlocal agreement, they agreed to pay it back in 2 installments. That's the first installment, $126,000. So to conclude this section of the budget, the total revenues in this fiscal budget of 22-23 went from $17,268,367 to $22,594,567, an increase of like $5.3 million. Most of that increase, almost 40%, actually came from the carryovers. So when you when I break down the $5.3 million increase from last year's budget to this year's proposed budget, probably about 50% of the increase are from contributions from the city and the county, and the other 40% is the carryover. So that's the breakdown on the revenues itself. Okay? And again, we gave each and every committee member our detailed budget, and I'll be glad to go over it, but it may be easier for me to do some summaries, and then if you have any questions about the actual detailed budget, I'll be glad to go over it. So, but let me continue, and then, and I'm sure you all have questions. One of the things that I want to, Mr. Chairman, present to the board is some of the projects and programs that the CRA anticipate implementing in the next fiscal year. In other words, I want to give this committee an opportunity to review and to hear on how we plan on spending these well-earned dollars. And one of the first things we want to do is we want to continue with the success of this CRA. So we want to continue assisting small businesses through our commercial grants program. I'm very excited as well as very proud of the commercial grants program. As you know, and you know North Miami better than I do, North Miami is for the most part a residential community and a small business community on our viable commercial corridors. And one of the things that I think when I came into this position as the executive director of the CRA is I was proud to know that the CRA had committed over $5 million to 45 small businesses, and that money went from anywhere from build outs or commercial facades and or assisting small businesses to survive in the city of North Miami. So I want to continue that success. And I'll go to the line item because we actually increased in the budget how much money we're going to contribute to the commercial grants. The next thing we would like to do is continue funding the single-family and multifamily rehabilitation programs. And we put a lot more money into that category, and I will explain in detail in a few minutes. We want to finalize the renovations at Pioneer Boulevard, phases 2 and 3. Pioneer Boulevard, as you know, is a very interesting boulevard that extends, I think, from Northeast 2nd to West Dixie. And we want to continue to make some improvements to make that special place even more special. And And the next three, I want to take a little time to talk about it. We want to, in this budget, we're allocating some money for the commercial quarters. The commercial quarters are, as I understand it, is Northwest 7th Avenue, Northwest 125th Street, Northeast 6th Avenue, and West Dixie. Those are our commercial quarters. And in this budget, I have allocated monies for what I would call a streetscape initiative for each one of those quarters. I think we put like $100,000, and of course you must know that those special commercial quarters need a lot more than $100,000. What these modest allocations would do is they would lay a foundation so that we can bring in some architects and bring in some designers and come up with an action plan on actually how we're going to transform those four quarters. There are a number of studies on each and every one of them, but we need an action plan. We need to go from an action plan to an RFP. So I put money in this budget to go talk to each district commissioner or council person so we can come up with an action plan in order to get something done on those commercial quarters. I'm almost finished. The next money that we allocated in this budget is I want to fund, the CRA has a commitment pursuant to the third interlocal agreement to fund a downtown parking garage initiative. So I got money in this budget to at least kickstart that process. I'm reluctant to call it a P3 initiative because my board has not given me any directions or any authority to even classify the garage as a P3 initiative. So the garage is in the interlocal agreement. As you can recall, in the third interlocal agreement, the CRA had 3 obligations in order to extend the life of the CRA to 2044. The first obligation is to take some affordable housing and some redevelopment on Northwest 7th Avenue. The second obligation was a downtown garage, and the third one was affordable housing. And so that's where the downtown garage initiative has come from. Many of you who know development better than I do know that garages could be very expensive. So for example, for a 450 space garage, with cost in excess of $20 million. Of course, I did not allocate $20 million. I think we allocated like maybe $100,000. Again, the same reason, to get some type of momentum, to get some action documents so we can take it to the next stage. So I don't want to mislead the board, the committee, or the community that I'm allocating money for a parking garage, to build a parking garage, as much as I'm allocating money so we can fully plan a parking garage. And of course, we'll bring those plans back to you for your comments and your review. And the last 2 things I'll talk about, these are new projects. And I spoke to my board about this at the last meeting. One of the things that we want to do at the CRA is we want to implement a home building initiative. I first classified this as a first-time home buyers program, but that may be confusing because the city has a first-time home buyers program. Miami-Dade County has a first-time home buyers program. So this is not really a home buyers program. This is a home building program, right? What we want to do in this program is a couple of things. First and foremost, and we want to allocate, and I'll tell you how much. I think I allocated maybe another $200,000 to this item. We're looking to approach the city to see if the city would convey to the CRA at least 4 vacant lots per year. If you convey 4 vacant lots per year, I have money in this budget to do what we call soft cost analysis, site preparation, sewage analysis, architectural and construction documents on 4 homes, right? What I will be proposing in the next budget, not this budget, is maybe a $1.2 million allocation. We believe we can build 4 beautiful homes, anywhere from 1,500 to 1,800 square feet, right, at less than $1.2 million. So that's like, we probably can get even maybe more homes. The point is that we want to start building homes, and what the CRA can do that other entities cannot do, right? If it's only CRA money involved, then the CRA can define affordability as it is defined in the city of North Miami. One of the challenges that you would find that when it comes to affordable housing, the statistics are used from Miami-Dade County. Miami-Dade County's average median income is like $66,000 per household. $66,000 per household. In North Miami, it may be $48,000. So as you can see, based on just that analysis, even though a home may be considered affordable for Miami-Dade County, it is not affordable in North Miami. And so what we would like to do is start to build our own homes and define affordability using North Miami demographics. As long as there's no county, state money involved, and it's just CRA money, we can do that. So one of the things that I'm allocating in this budget is soft cost dollars to identify the properties. Hopefully we don't have to pay for the properties initially. Identify the properties, come up with some construction documents, so most of the money will go to architectural designs and documents for these beautiful homes. And then we also want to have, this is very important, we also want to have a qualification program to run simultaneously with this program. In other words, we want to be able to qualify people and help them fix their credit, match them with a bank, so when these homes are available and ready, first in, first out. The last thing I'll say about this is we meaning the CRA, cannot build homes for residents of North Miami. That is a violation. You have to open the process up to the whole county. So what we want to do is we want to have a program where we can qualify them, and even though you open it up to the county, first in, first out. So hopefully we'll have a list of people already ready and qualified, and with a little luck, hopefully most of them will be from North Miami. So we're not targeting them. We're not going to target them. We're not going to give them a preference. We're just going to give them a head start. And the last thing on the list is implement a construction working training program. One of the provisions and one of the conditions of receiving CRA money is the developers have to agree to local hiring preferences. They have to agree to pay a certain minimum wage, right? And so what the developers are telling me is they can't meet those numbers because they can't find the labor force. And it's just not in North Miami. There is a laborers shortage throughout Miami-Dade County, if not the nation. So one of the things that we're going to be implementing and putting money in this budget is a construction training workers program, so we can train individuals. So once we train them, and we're going to do maybe like a 16-week course, and we're going to give them a stipend, and upon their completion of the course, the developers have agreed to hire these workers. So those are the highlights and the new additions to this budget. I could go on and on and on, but I'll stop right there and see if there are any questions about the material that we have presented to you so far. Okay, so then let me highlight some things then. Okay, okay, go ahead.
When it comes to the parking garage incentive, is that so that they will construct parking?
With the parking garage, first and foremost, in the Analytical Agreement, the North Miami CRA has an obligation, or have obligated itself to build a downtown parking garage, right? And we know parking garages can be very expensive. So what I put money in this budget is for planning of that garage, okay? Planning meaning that we have a general idea where the garage should be, and it should be in the parking lot or right across the street from this building, right? But there are no plans, there's no renderings on how it's gonna look, how many stories, the parking. There are not even any plans on whether this parking is gonna be at a fee. There's no plans on what buildings will be attached to the parking garage. Right, so we're putting money in to start the process. Thank you. Okay? And before I move on to some of the other materials, Mr. Chairperson, I just want to, let me go through the budget. And so, and these line items are not numbered, and they should be numbered. So I'll just tell you some of the highlights. In our commercial incentive program, we went from $900,000 to $1.5 million. I am so excited about the fact of attracting small businesses to North Miami. I think that should be our logo. If you have a small business dream, if you want to be a small business entrepreneur, City of North Miami would love to see you. And so we increased that to about $600,000. Here's a huge increase, our housing initiative. We went from $800,000 to $2.2 million. A lot of that would deal with the home buyers program, as well as home renovations, as well as doing some, my board has given me the indication that they want to see some enhancements on Northeast 6th Avenue. You have a lot of apartment buildings, some of them look a little blighted. And so we want to give some of those buildings a facelift. We want to also give some of the single family homes some facelifts. I'm looking at doing an analysis on homes to see if they all have hurricane standard windows. These are the wonderful things that a well-managed CRA should be doing. And so thanks to my board's leadership, thanks to your leadership, we would like to continue doing these things. And that's probably the end of my budget summary. Let me see if I have anything. And by the way, for what I have attached is a sheet in your packet. I'll just show you how it looks. It says Administrative Expenditures Narrative. So what I did in this narrative is I took every line item in the budget and I explained to you exactly how we're going to spend that money in this narrative. You know, now I think I sent this to you ahead of time, but I know you guys got other lives. You don't have a life like me who lives this stuff day and night.
They made it way easier for me to see exactly how the money is.
And I appreciate that too. I appreciate that too because I have to keep it simple, because if I can't understand it, we're in trouble. Okay? So, Mr. Chairman, that's my end of the budget presentation, but I'm really want to get into some other things in this book, but I'll just stop and turn the meeting back over to you.
Okay, do we have any input, comments, questions?
You want to go over Mr. Director, would you go over the return of the funds to the county from our TIF? We're supposed to return, I think it was
Oh, that's a very good question.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think that's a little bit misleading when you're saying that the county's giving us this money and then
Oh.
we actually have to return it. Maybe for the new members, you want to get into
Oh, that's
a
a
little
great.
bit of the history of why we have to return that funds to the county
Okay.
on the TIF.
That's an excellent question. Give me a second because I actually have backup material on that.
Yeah.
Okay. Let me take you to.
No, I know why, but I'm just for
No,
the
I
edification
know
of the
that's
new members.
perfect, and I was getting ready to go there. Let me do it this way. Let me just explain it in as simple as I can to make it understood. Pursuant to the Community Redevelopment Act, which I have a copy of that act here, and I'll answer your question by summarizing the additional things I have in the packet. In Section 1, I have a copy of the Community Redevelopment Act. As you must know, CRAs are authorized under state law, and there's something called a Community Redevelopment Act that controls how you create and how you operate CRAs. Right. So for your benefit, not tonight, in Section 1, I gave you a complete copy of the entire act. Okay.
And Neil, if I might jump in here, I think that would be a great item for the retreat.
Right.
so that everybody can really in depth begin to, go over and understand, the act and all of the amendments to it and that kind of thing.
So I gave you a copy, but I'm not gonna go into it tonight. I'm not gonna get into it. That's for the retreat, right? But I wanna answer that question though. In the act specifies, how you create a trust fund. And the act specifically says that when you create a trust fund, and it has a formula, but 95% of the tax revenues or the property taxes generated in your area should come back to the CRA, unless the CRA and its taxing authorities agree to something less. In this case, when this CRA was formed, this CRA agreed, and the counties and the taxing authorities, the city and the county agreed to remit 95% of the property taxes revenues to the CRA. That was the deal. And the whole intent was that the CRA would take that money and go to the bond market and bring more money in order to further development. One of the most powerful things of the CRA is that it can pledge its future TIF revenues and bring money in today. Apparently back in 2013, now I'm getting to your answer, in a interlocal agreement, it could have been 2013, I have matter of fact, it was 2017, it's document number 2. In 2017, the CRA agreed to cap its revenues with the county at $1 million. So no matter what the revenues are earned from the county, this CRA's revenue is capped at $1 million. So for example, when I go back to the chart that we talked about, it says the TIF county contribution, $6,110,000. Of that $6 million, the CRA is only allowed to keep $1 million. The other 5.1, based on the agreement that the CRA made, has to go back to the county. I'm not too sure if any other CRA in the county has a requirement to be capped at $1 million, but we agreed to do that. I am raising so much fuss about that. I would not give you my opinion on that because I see your chairperson is really looking at me and watching me how I choose my words carefully. But what I will tell you is we will go back to the county and see if we can renegotiate a better deal. To cap our revenues at $1 million is a financial need on our neck, particularly when we have so many opportunities now to do so many wonderful things. So let me end this section by saying that the $5 million that we should be, by the way, to date, we have remitted back over $14 million. And when we send this $5 million back, we would have sent back to the county $19.2 million. That's a lot of money. The $5 million that we have to send back under this fiscal budget can give this CRA a bonding capacity of over $200 million. $200 million. At a minimum, what I had hoped the county would have done is say, okay, we'll take the money, but we'll spend that money back into the city of North Miami. That money goes into their general fund and is forever lost to this community. So I think I answered the question. And I can talk about it. In the workshop, I'll trust you, I'll bring you more information about it. But my board members are aware, and they are going to see if we can kind of get some relief from the county on that $1 million cap. So thank you for the question. Okay. So what I would tell you in this book, I got you the Redevelopment Act. So when we do have a retreat, you'll know that this is the act that I'm talking about. One of the things that I want you to look at is I want you to look carefully at the definition of slum. I want you to look carefully at the definition of blight. people always tell you, what's the mission of a CRA? A CRA is to eliminate slum and to eliminate blight. I would love for the committee to go back and look at how the act defines those two terms, because it's a little interesting twist that you will find. The second document is the Analytical Agreement, and what I put that document in is I want you to see where this CRA agreed to cap its revenues at $1 million. But more importantly, in this document, the second document, this document prescribes how the CRA will be extended, the life of the CRA will be extended to 2044. And for pertinent for this conversation, and I'm wrapping up very soon, right? The agency shall implement 2 of the following 3 projects in order to solidify the extending the life of the CRA to 2044. In other words, the CRA does not have a final approval or extending the life of the CRA to 2044 unless the CRA does the following. It says shall implement 2 of the following. One is the 7th Avenue corridor I talked about, or the city downtown core parking garage. It talks about with 60 public spaces and ground floor retail and related instruction improvements. We already talked about that because you know I'm putting money in the budget. Or rehabilitation of very low and low housing units. So we have to do 2 of those 3 things, or, now this is the kicker, or, and I'm gonna read this because most people miss the or. Do 2 of the 3, or the assessed value of the taxable real property contained within the geographical boundaries shall be increased at least 40% using the 2016 assessment. Let me spend a few seconds on that because it's a little confusing, but you got time to grasp it later, right? So in order to get the 2044 extension finalized, the CRA has to do 2 of the 3 projects or increase its property tax base by 40% from 2016. Folks, I'm telling you, our property tax base has increased about 96%. So just on that fact alone, this CRA has earned the right to finalize the extension to 2044. We'll be wrapping all that up in the next 2-3 months, but that's why I have that document so you guys can kind of go through it. And when we meet again, I'm sure you'll have a lot more questions on it. And the rest, you know, Mr. Chairman, I'll save for our retreat.
I just had one question.
Sure.
The agreement to cap our, I guess, tax tip at $1 million, is there
Yes.
a expiration date on that? When does that agreement terminate, or is it for the life of
There is
the
no,
CRA?
that's, as the way the agreement stands is to 2044, to the
Okay.
life of the
The life of
CRA.
the agreement,
Okay.
yeah. Mr. Chairman, well, first of all, is there anybody else has any questions? So we would like to propose a motion to approve the budget as
So moved.
presented. Okay, if no one has any other additional questions. Okay, do I have a motion to approve the CRA budget for 22-23 as presented?
Yes.
Hmm?
We already had the motion, right?
No, I'm waiting for the motion.
I did say so moved.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, any further discussion? Edwidge?
I just
Blanca?
wanna,
Well, I think if we have any questions, we'll be able to solve it when we have the meeting.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. That's what
Yeah.
that's what I was about to say. I got a few questions, but I think it would be better when we get together and then we go on and go over them
Oh,
because
about the,
yeah.
okay, but you're seconding the budget?
Yes.
I actually
Okay.
had one more question. Mr. Chairman, I don't know if you remember, at the Planning Commission meeting a few months ago, there was something brought up before the board where there was terms within the ordinance being changed to require homeowners upgrade their sanitary lines. I don't know if you guys remember this. And we had an outpour from the city where certain individuals could not afford to hire subcontractors to do that work. With the home incentive increase, is that a plausible source of funds that those homeowners can then reach out to the CRA to get?
If I understand you correctly, I do know that there was a county initiative where they wanted to, I think for environmental reasons, want to eliminate the septic tanks.
Correct.
Right.
And that type of stuff. So if there was flooding, they didn't want the flood to then, or to contaminate the rest of land.
Correct. But the homeowners were responsible for
Right.
the connection on their property.
Right.
Exactly.
Not,
Connection to the
yeah,
sewer.
from their house to.
So
sewer.
connecting, eliminating the septic tanks and connecting the sewage to, I
The
guess, to
line.
the main lines, right?
Right.
I did not contemplate and/or take any consideration of that item in this budget. I'll be glad to have the conversation with my board and, in this case, possibly the city manager. But no, we don't have that effort or program. So we'll be looking for the county for support on that.
Okay.
But that is a very important as well as a very costly endeavor. And I think if this committee, in my infinite and limited wisdom as well, should really follow up on that. And I'll be glad to, remember, I implement policies, I don't create them.
No.
Remember, I told you guys that when I came in here. But if that is the will of this committee and that's the will of my board, then we'll see what we can do to make that, but that is a costly endeavor, I'm almost certain.
Very, very costly.
It is, and again, my comment was not to, if we can provide some additional funding, again, to a first come, first served basis, but I think any help would be appreciated to those homeowners that can afford it.
Thank you, and we'll take that, I'll take that in advisement as well.
Okay, and we can always amend the budget,
Yeah.
you know, so. So we have a motion by Mr. Each, seconded by Mr. Charles Pierre to approve the 22-23 CRA budget as presented. Is there any further comment, questions? Blanca?
No.
Marisol? Okay. Charles?
I'm good.
Okay. All right, so we have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carries 5-0.
Thank you, and I look forward to planning a retreat so we can sit down
7-0,
and
I'm
spend some
sorry.
time. And the reason I gave you the materials, because I want you to start kind of looking at ahead of the retreat. And so the retreat will center around most likely most of the material that I gave you. I'll work with your chairperson to come up with a date and a location. And I'm just so excited about, you know, working with you, this team. So I want to thank you. I really do. Okay?
Our pleasure.
So is that it, Mr. Chairman?
Well, we have a CRA attorney report, but he's not present, I
Right.
guess, because of the holiday.
Exactly.
Okay. Do you have anything else? We have anything under your report?
The only thing I would report is, and I pretty much have, one of the things that I'm new to this job, you know that. And so, you know, and I'm trying new things, and I really would need your insight, because some of these things may work and some may not work. But one of the things I do want to do, and you just mentioned it, is that typically when we bring these budgets to the board, we amend the previous year, and then we adopt to new year. So what I want to do is I want to amend in the mid-year. I don't, you know, in other words, I want to make adjustments probably in June. I mean, you know, so we'll ride this out. Don't wait till the end of the fiscal year and start making adjustments. Let's come back and revisit the budget probably in 4 or 5,
So maybe
months.
that's time enough to us to look at that, which,
right?
you know.
And then we can make any adjustments accordingly, as opposed to doing all the adjustments at the end of the year. And that's one
Right.
thing that I'll be talking to this committee about more, and we'll get into it, because I really, really would need your direction and your cover in really taking this place to the next level. So I want to thank you, and that's the end of my report.
Okay. Is there any public comments? Public? Okay. Any old business to come before us?
None from the CRA.
Okay. Okay, and no new business, sir?
None.
Okay. So that being said, please let's start thinking about a date for the retreat. What is everybody's feeling? October, just as a general, October, November, December is always a terrible time. So what does everybody think about October or November? What's everybody's schedule look like? Kenny? November?
Yeah.
You know, most of the retreats that I've been on, even North Miami City retreats, is usually sometime in the evening or even on the weekends, like a Saturday. So I'm pretty much open. You know, even on a weekend, a lot of retreats that I'm going to now for different boards, different charity boards are being held on the weekend. Because it's, you know, time is better for people. But what is everybody's thought? October,
I think a
November?
weekend will be better.
Yeah, I
When?
mean, do we have a time frame? What's the agenda and how long are we talking about? 4 hours, 8
Well,
hours?
I'm talking about maybe, you know, feeding you and spending, you know, a few hours, getting your input. There's a lot that we can talk about. It's so much. And I want it to be a fun event as well.
Right.
So we're probably talking about maybe a half a day or a little more on a Saturday will be fine.
Mhm.
You know, we'll feed you. We'll have some, you know, and we're really get into the objectives and the goals of a CRA. It's a very, very, very powerful economic community development tool. If you have the right location, the right leadership.
Right.
And so I'm eager to deal, you know, to get this committee in the room and we just tear this stuff apart.
Right. Okay. What were you saying, Blanca, about what month?
No, whenever, October,
Okay.
November, whatever month is.
Okay. Edwidge, how's your schedule look?
Yeah, as long as I mean, I'm free up to the week before Thanksgiving. After that, it gets a little hectic.
Yeah. So maybe early November, how's that?
Yeah, I was thinking sometime in November after the midterm. You know, around that time, make you know, over the weekend, Friday, Saturday. One of them would work for me. If it's on Friday, I only have to take maybe the day off, which I can work with my boss. It's not gonna be a problem, but
Well, we
sometime-
have the weekend before Thanksgiving, the Saturday is the 19th. It's the week after the midterms and the week before Thanksgiving. So
Yeah, that works.
how does the 19th look? November 19th.
What day is that on? Saturday?
That's a Saturday.
Yeah, I'm not gonna be able to make it.
You're gonna be out of town?
No, I have things, I'm just tied up on other Saturdays with the buildings and stuff. I just can't make it. You guys, I'm pretty familiar with this.
Okay.
You know, you do whatever you guys wanna do, you do.
You can't do any Saturday then.
I have obligations, unfortunately. I'm by myself. I got 3 buildings and I gotta take care of them.
Yeah, okay.
There's just no, I might be out of town
Yeah,
those
November
weeks.
19th
I'm gonna be gone the week after Thanksgiving.
November 19th is fine.
Okay. All right, so, well, what does everybody think? Do we wanna shoot for the 19th of November, or we can do some day during the week, but I know people's schedules during the week who work are just really,
Well, during the week will be hard if it's gonna be a few hours.
Yeah, I would prefer.
Yeah.
yeah. All right, so let's shoot for November the 19th.
Right, that'd be fine. It's your
Okay,
call.
and we can
we
always
can
change
always
this.
and we can always do a some type of virtual or Zoom.
We could do a combination.
Right, I would want everybody there, but those who can't, and for the general public, because we have to open it up to the public as well. Then we can also do some type of virtual presentation as well. But I would like to have as many board members as we can, because, it's
Okay,
very
so
important.
So we're gonna shoot for
No, I got Saturday,
no?
November 19th, and you and I work the details out on location and, and coming up with an agenda. But for the most part, the material that you have tonight will lay the foundation,
Yeah.
for
Well,
what we.
this would be, assuming there's not a lot of conflicting activities, this would be the Galvin Center would be, Scott Galvin Center would be a perfect location.
We have, as we,
you know,
sometime, what is that, November, isn't it?
November, yeah.
Yeah.
So, all right,
And-
so, does anybody have any other suggestions?
Oh,
No,
one thing, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
we talked about, the appointments. Did our terms expire, or?
Yeah, so we're gonna, the city council, I don't know whether the city council's gonna meet tomorrow night or not. I know that they're discussing it, but this is something we'll have to bring up to, 'cause I think everybody's, appointments have expired. The city attorney's opinion has been in the past that, the terms continue until there's, some decision made, so we're still a legitimate,
Right.
board, but, we, that's something that, we'll have to make sure that,
Did we, remember we had it on the planning commission, did that pass the council, whereas if our terms expired, our position stayed in effect until the appointed authority, which
that's
is,
what I just said,
okay.
yeah, so we're still good until there's a reappointment.
Like
of
whoever
the-
appoints you,
Yeah,
as long as they're in
exactly.
office, you're still here,
Right,
and, yeah, that did pass though, right?
Yes,
Okay, I wasn't
Yeah.
sure if it did or.
so, anyway, so, okay,
And we have another, just, our next meeting would be next month, or just making sure?
our next meeting would be I guess, the first Monday in October, which
Yeah.
would be next Monday, basically, right? Correct?
Right. I don't know if I'm gonna have a meeting that fast. I'll look and I'll
So
advise you.
perhaps maybe the Monday, in the past, we've done Mondays before the council meeting,
Mondays before the council
which would be
meeting.
the second Monday in
No, then,
October.
you know what, I will have a board meeting,
The second.
in October.
The second Monday
yes.
in October.
Because,
So everybody, please mark your calendars.
right, I just
Second.
realized, I kinda held some things back, just to deal just with the budget. If you notice, I only have one item on the agenda tomorrow.
Right.
So I will be having a board meeting in October on maybe 3, 4, other items as well.
Okay, so that'll be the second Monday in October.
Exactly.
October 10th.
October 10th, right.
Exactly.
Okay. All right, anything else to come before the board? Going once, going twice? Okay, so to clarify, the budget was approved by a 7-0 margin. And, do I have a motion to adjourn?
So move.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
That was
Thank you very
loud.
much, Mr. Executive Director, and